What's going on, my friends? For today's watch review, we're taking a look at the Citizen Promaster Land. I recently put out a video covering two other Citizens, the Tough and Garrison, and I called them great options for a watch, for like a one watch collection. And so now I want to add the Citizen Promaster Land to that list, just because Citizen makes such a solid watch, especially any watch with Eco Drive. They last for a very long time and they are essentially bulletproof. So let's go ahead and get to the review. I will share with you my thoughts and hopefully you enjoy it. Let's go over some general information, starting off with price. MSRP is at $575, but online you can find it reasonably around $350 to $450 depending on where you're looking at. For dimensions and weight, the diameter is 41.5 millimeters if we're measuring just the bezel area, but if we include the crown and the outer edge, then it goes up to 46.2 millimeters. For case thickness, it's 13.9 millimeters, lug to lug of 50 millimeters, and lug width of 22 millimeters. For weight, it's sitting at 180 grams or 6.4 ounces. It is going to be slightly on the heavier side, and that is attributed to the all steel case and bracelet. For the functions and features, this is a solar and atomic watch, so it's going to get charged from any source of light, preferably the sun, and it's going to update automatically to a radio tower every single day as long as the signal is available. And even without a radio signal, accuracy is still going to be fantastic. It is still a quartz watch, and it is rated for plus or minus 15 seconds per month. For the battery, with a fully charged battery, this watch is going to last you 10 months with 4 hours of power save a day, and 3 years with power save for 24 hours a day. And that's assuming that you were in an area that had absolutely zero light. But considering that situation is just not realistic, you really don't need to worry about the battery life on this thing. It is going to last you decades and quite possibly long enough to pass down to the next generation. Now going over the functions and features, we'll just start from the top and work our way down to the bottom. At the very top, we have a sapphire crystal, which is fantastic. Underneath that crystal, you can see the main dial. The dial consists of your standard indices, hour and minute hand, second hand, but there's also 3 subdials. So your 10 o'clock subdial is going to be your 24-hour and AM PM indicator. Your 2 o'clock subdial is going to serve several different purposes. So it's going to serve as a power gauge, a day of the week indicator, a DST indicator, and also the minute hand for the chronograph function. And then your 6 o'clock subdial is your mode subdial. So it's going to tell you which mode you are in. And as you can see, we are currently in main time mode as the hand is pointed to TME. At 4 o'clock, you can see the date window, and this is a perpetual calendar, but also just because of the fact that it's an atomic watch, your date is always going to be right on the money. There is lume applied to all of the hands and the indices, with the exception of the 2 o'clock subdial, which is kind of funny, but I guess you don't really need that subdial in the dark anyways. Moving on to the right hand side of the case, we see 2 pushers and then a push-pull crown. And then on the very bottom, we have a brushed steel snap-on case back. In my opinion, this is less than ideal. I would have liked to have seen a screw-down case back, but it's fine and it does its job. I think most of you will agree with me though that a screw-down case back would have been ideal. And all of this provides 200 meters of water resistance, and according to the manual, that is good for up to swimming and snorkeling, but not diving. Usually I would take points away for that, but considering this is called the Land Promaster, or the Promaster Land, its intended purpose really wasn't meant to be underwater anyways. Now let's take a little bit more of an in-depth look at each of the functions and modes. It can seem overwhelming and overly complicated, but it's really not too bad. For the crown, you've got 2 positions. So the first position is how you're going to change whatever mode that is displayed on the main dial, and then pull out to the second position in any of the modes, and it's going to allow you to make adjustments within each of those different modes. Now let's just cover each of the different modes real quick. So on main time, of course, as the name would suggest, your hour hand and minute hand are going to display the main time, and then at 2 o'clock subdial, it's going to show you the day of the week. This is the mode that you're going to be in for a majority of the time. For the 2 pushers, starting off with the top one, if you press that, it's going to show you the offset to UTC, so basically the time zone that you're currently in. And then your 2 o'clock subdial is going to show you if daylight savings time is on or off. And then if you hit the bottom pusher, that's going to show you if you received an atomic signal. So right now it's pointing to no. If you did, it would be pointing to okay. And then your 2 o'clock subdial is going to point to the power meter. So let's push that again just so you can see the power gauge. It's telling me that it has a full charge. And if you push the button again, it'll cancel out of that mode and go back to main time. The great thing about this watch is just how easy it is to shift through different time zones. So in this case, you're going to pull out the crown to the second position, and now it's pointing at the current time zone that you're in. And all you got to do is turn the crown to change the time zone. So let's move it back to -6. And then pressing this upper pusher will allow you to turn on or off daylight savings time for each individual time zone. So if you push this, you can see that it's right now it's blocked by the hour hand, but that little subdial hand is going to move to off. And then if we push it again, it moves back to on. And so it's super easy, very user friendly to adjust the time zone that you're in. Now let's pull out the crown to the first position and then go over to chronograph or stopwatch. We'll push that in, and now your main second hand is going to be your second hand for the stopwatch, and then your 2 o'clock subdial is going to act as your minute subdial. The upper pusher is your start stop button, so you push that and now you can see it go, and then push it again, and then the lower pusher for resetting the stopwatch. Let's pull out the crown to the first position and then go over to alarm. So now your hour and minute hand are going to display what the alarm is set to. One of the downsides to this is that, as you can see right now, it is cycling through the entire day to get to the time that your alarm is set to. And so this is kind of frustrating because you're basically forced to wait for this process to complete. I will say it is a cool visual experience, but once you've seen it once, you're just thinking like, all right, come on, let's just get this over with. But now it's showing that the alarm is set to 12 o'clock or 2400. And then the second hand is pointing to off because the alarm is off. And then if we're on, it would be pointing to on right there. And to do that, you would hit the upper pusher to either turn it on or off. And then the lower pusher here allows you to test the alarm beep, and it's going to go off for about 5 seconds and then stop automatically. To adjust the time, just like anything else, you would pull the crown out to the second position and adjust the time accordingly. And then now we're back to main time. Now just talking about the dial itself and overall visibility, I think it's really well done here. You would think that it'd look a little bit too complicated and busy, but in fact I think once you get used to it, everything is clear. The contrast from the backdrop to the white indices and hands and subdials, it's all very sharp and very clear. One thing I really like on any watch is sunburst color tones, and here you've got that gray sunburst style that is so aesthetically pleasing and classy looking in my opinion. I also really like how they did the indices and the style of the hands, because you get a little bit of field watch with a little bit of pilot or aviation watch, and then everything tied together is also kind of like a just business casual desk watch. And so it does fit a large variety of different people with different styles in a way that easily transitions from one environment to the other. And just as it is visibly sharp during the day, so too is it at night with that lume. Citizen lume has always been superb and a cut above its peers. And for that bezel area, I know there is no functioning bezel here, but I love the fact how it is a little bit raised with the silver tone. It does add a touch of elegant class to it, with also like a tool-like aesthetic, and I think a lot of men, businessmen, and technician type people are going to resonate with that. On the side, taking a look at the pushers and the crown. So the pushers are fine, they feel solid, they don't feel flimsy or cheap, and the fact that they are also metal adds to that overall appeal. The selling point here is that crown with the knurled texturing, and also you've got the Promaster logo engraved onto it, also, you know, giving it a touch of a higher quality. Despite the fact that it is not a screw down crown, I still think it is solid. You know, when you pull out the crown to the first position and the second position, it all feels very deliberate and well assembled. The bracelet is standard affair, nothing to write home about, but again, there's nothing wrong with that. Don't try and fix something that's not broken. Here you've got standard style with a milled steel clasp and a safety tab with Citizen engraved on it. And also standard number of micro adjusts. I think 5 would be perfect, but as it stands, I've got no complaints. I was able to, actually I didn't have to adjust anything. My wrist is so fat and thick that I don't have to remove any links. So one of the benefits of having a fat wrist is that you can just put on any watch straight out of the box. For the fit and finish, I love how it is brushed throughout the entirety of the case. You do have some high polish finish here on the side of the bezel, but that just accents the overall brushed look to it in a way that supports it and doesn't take away from it. Everything about this watch kind of screams purpose built. You know, it's meant for a specific thing, not for luxury, not to look pretty, but it is a tool, and I think it can handle most any task that you throw it at. Other than that, despite the fact that the function and feature set might be a little bit crowded, you really cannot go wrong with this one. You've got Eco Drive, which is a bulletproof movement, and then a sapphire crystal and atomic timekeeping, so you are going to be accurate with time 24/7, 365 for decades, while having just a very clean looking watch. And there's really not much more you can ask from any watch company. If I had to be nitpicky and critique it, I think the size is going to be the biggest downside to the watch. For me, it's not an issue at all, but I can imagine that a lot of people out there with smaller wrists and a little bit pickier with the dimensions, I will say, you know, this might not be the right watch for you. But the counter argument to that is you're getting so much that might be something you just have to settle and sacrifice to get all of these features in a watch this size. So that pretty much covers the review and my thoughts. I think the best way to describe this watch is if you were to take a Skyhawk and a Garrison and merge them together, this is the result. With this watch, you're getting the best of both worlds, from a simple field type watch with a more complex aviation watch. And when you pair that with the Eco Drive movement, sapphire crystal, solid steel case, you really can't go wrong with that. As far as the value proposition, I do think you're getting a lot for your money if you spend, you know, within the $350 to $400 range. Because if you consider all of the features that you're getting, and then you stretch that over the course of 15 to 20 years, you're getting to enjoy this watch for a few bucks a year. And like I said before, you really just can't beat that. And so that about wraps it up. Hopefully you enjoyed my thoughts and opinions on this great watch. There are so many fantastic watches out there, and so my journey to cover them and review them will probably never end, or until I end this channel. But thank you so much for sticking around and watching. If you haven't subscribed already, I'm gonna ask you to go ahead and do that and join my other social media accounts just to join the family and join in on the conversation. If not, again, thank you so much for sticking around, and hopefully I'll see you in the next episode. All right, bye.